More people are starting to ask questions now. They don't know what the answer is. They just know that what they're being told by the television isn't the answer. Do you need that? Do you really need that? Do you need to watch a series on Netflix called He's Expecting, about a man having a baby? Do you need that in your life? The idea has always been to create state dependence. It's been to destroy independent livelihood, to destroy people's ability to fend for themselves. Because if you can fend for yourself, you're not beholden to anyone. You can just go, no thanks, you're okay, I'm all right, I can do what I want, I do it my way. I've got my own business, I've got my own income, I'm fine, thanks, Mr. Government. Vanguard and BlackRock are buying up all this property. Bill Gates is buying up all this farmland. In the UK, the Lloyds Group are buying up all this property. You will own nothing, but you'll be happy. Social media is created to be addictive. When you scroll down on Facebook and it does the while it's loading, that's because you get a dopamine hit, because you are waiting for something. It doesn't need to do that. I actually think it's very simple what people need to do, which is just non-compliance, just basic, peaceful non-compliance in enough numbers. And, you know, the Austrian government can say to you that you have to have a vaccine. They can say that. They're free to say that. That's absolutely their right to say you have to have a vaccine. But it's also your right to go, nah, you're right, thanks, mate. And then what? A mandate doesn't mean anything. A mandate is just a word. It's just a series of words. That's all a mandate is. It becomes a mandate when you go along with it. And if enough of you refuse to, it's just a politician saying some words from an auto cue. It doesn't mean anything. More and more people aren't going to go along with it anymore. People are cancelling their TV licenses here like it's going out of fashion. People are cancelling their Netflix subscriptions, their Disney subscriptions. You know, and all these things are just propaganda outfits. You sign into it, you pay for your own propaganda and your own enslavement, your own programming. But people are now stepping away from it, going, hang on, mate, I've been paying for 10 years to be programmed. I ain't doing it anymore. You know, in terms of the awakening, it's only going one way. Like, no one's going back to sleep. No. Yeah, he's not going to slow down. He you know, he feels like he's here to win a war basically that he's been fighting for 30 years.
Stop what you're doing and check this out. Multiple reports warn about incoming cyber attacks. There's reason to believe that foreign hackers are researching and preparing to launch an unprecedented attack on US infrastructure. This is why I highly recommend Virtual Shield to keep yourself anonymous online. Virtual Shield helps protect your online identity by keeping your browsing activity hidden from internet service providers, hackers, big tech, and foreign countries. Right now, they're offering 50% off to our subscribers for life. If you sign up today, you will get a free 30-day trial for the next 24 hours by going to virtualshield.com/inspired or by clicking the link down below. Go try it for free right now. Hey, Inspired Tribe, how's it going? Welcome to another Inspired Conversation. And today we're welcoming back a special friend of the Inspired channel. We're so excited to have him. Thank you, Gareth Icke, for joining us again.
Thank you very much for having me, mate. Thank you.
Most of you know Gareth. Of course, you know him. He's the son of David Icke and part of one of our favorite families, the Icke families. But Gareth, being a songwriter, being an artist, being a truth seeker, and someone with a broad perspective, is also a host on the Ickonic media platform. And Gareth, I just have to tell you, whoever came up with that name, absolute genius. Ickonic, absolute genius. But Gareth, I want to ask you, you are doing this on a daily. You are interviewing people. You have your show. You are producing films together with the rest of the family. What is currently buzzing around your studio, around your offices? What topics are really something people need to pay attention to?
Well, in the office, they've put a 5G mast right opposite. So everyone's got headaches and was dropping like flies with illness last couple of weeks. So that's been a hot topic within the studio. If it burns down, it wasn't me. But in terms of stuff we're producing, you know, lots of new films on the horizon, and new series, and we're basically covering everything. So my brother's just signed for a film yesterday, actually just signed for a film about transgenderism, in terms of making a documentary with people that want to talk about both sides, which obviously you don't get. Both sides being people that have gone through transitions and felt that they were pressured into doing so, and are now regretting it. And obviously you don't get to hear their voices. So that's something that the channel's going to be producing, which I'm sure will, wind some people up and offend some people. But, I think if you're going to dig around and get to the truth in any subject, you're going to annoy some people and you're going to ruffle some feathers. And that's just sort of part and parcel of it. If you're worried about that, you wouldn't make anything. So that's what we're doing at the moment. Personally, right now, the show that I do, we're gonna push that to 2 shows a week. At the moment, it's just 1, so we're going to push that to 2 shows a week. We've got a kind of ever so slightly different format for the second show because we feel like there's scope to do that. When we first launched the show, honestly, mate, I was literally like, I was begging people. I was sending groveling emails because a lot of people that are whistleblowing or talking about stuff, they're used to presenters either dismissing them, taking the mick, turning the tables on them, and whatever. And so they're always very kind of distrusting of media outlets, which I totally 100% I respect that. I get that. So I was sending like groveling emails to people like, come and talk to us, tell us your story. I don't interview in that way. We'll let you speak. I'll do this, blah, blah. And now it's like people are coming to us, can you share our story? Can you share this? Can you share that? So it's flipped to such a point now where we're like, mate, let's get 2 shows a week. Let's, and that's great. That's I take that as a real positive that people have watched what we've done for the last year or so on that particular show and like it enough to want to be involved,
And which on a much smaller scale, we're experiencing kind of too is, people emailing us and sharing their stories. And I have to ask you, this is completely from one journalist or creator or truth researcher, whatever you want to call us, to another. How do you filter through that? Because I know the volume that you must get. How do you filter? How do you decide? How is that process working on Ickonic?
With great difficulty, to be honest.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm fortunate enough now with Right Now because I do lots of different shows. We have Gemma, who's a producer of Right Now, so she deals with that. She does that as a producer, so that sort of takes that load off my shoulders. But it is difficult, and like there was. I'm trying to think when it was. We did the Midazolam episode of Right Now, which was a real, it was an emotive episode. You had family members coming on saying, that their mothers and fathers and grandparents had been murdered, by the state basically, with the use of Midazolam, and they put it down as COVID and stuff. And these were like heart-wrenching stories. There was one guy, it was a really, really nice guy called Wayne, who had done all this research, and he was writing to his MPs and he was forwarding me all the time, like the replies and stuff. And he was really getting on their nerves. And then he suddenly died. They said it was COVID, even though he'd never had a test or anything like that. And he was found dead in his house, which, isn't how you die of COVID, if you believe the narrative. And so, that was kind of crazy. But then people had given out my number to people, which was less than ideal. And so I was getting phone calls sometimes at half 11 midnight from people heart-wrenching, just wanting to tell me their stories and stuff. And that's difficult, mate. Like, especially when you've got young kids, and the phone goes just as you're brushing your teeth to go to bed, and you spend an hour downstairs on the phone because you can't, you have to talk to people. Of course you do, especially when people have gone through such horrific things, So that side of it's difficult, I'll be honest. But having a producer now makes a massive difference.
To me, this is sometimes maybe also important for viewers to share is that it's not just research to go. You're not just sorting through documents and hundreds of pages of websites. It's actually the real stories, real people, real tragedies, or even real beautiful stories, whatever it might be. But it's a lot of human interaction, human connection, which is a good thing. But on the other hand, it can absolutely, I think, wear you out over time because one human being wasn't designed to absorb all this tragedy that's happening in the world today. So I'm glad this is progressing in a positive direction because it is important to do that. I want to switch a little bit to current events, and that's part of what Ickonic is doing so well. In addition to all the wonderful movies that you produce and the formats that you have, which really present full picture, not just current events, but solutions, how to co-create a reality outside the matrix. I just encourage everyone. We're paid subscribers to Ickonic. We love the platform. I encourage everyone to go check it out. But on current events, What do you feel with these big hot button issues that everybody's talking about? What are we potentially missing right now? Or what is happening in the background that people really need to pay attention to?
They're all connected. That's something. You see, people will have a conversation about COVID. They will have a conversation about Russia. They will have a conversation about different subjects, and they kind of treat them in isolation, where they're all completely connected. I think the big thing here at the minute is the energy prices. That's something that's creating a real issue for people, because there's a lot of people in the UK that would choose in the winter whether to eat or be warm anyway. Like, that was a choice. You couldn't do both. And now the energy prices, mine have quadrupled overnight. And they're saying in October they're going to go up even more. People can't afford it now. So they're certainly not going to be able to afford it in October. And so again, people treat that in isolation, whereas you go, right, okay, so you've got the COVID situation where you have these ridiculous lockdowns, and the closing of businesses, everyone's sat at home, so these businesses are dying out. So therefore people's jobs are dying out. So people are impoverished, people are struggling. And then all of a sudden this war kicks off in Ukraine, which creates all these upheaval, and the fact that, actually we're going to have food shortages now because, the harvest isn't going to come in the Ukraine, and they provide an enormous amount of food for Europe. And then you go, and to be fair, and the rest of the world. And then you've got the energy prices. And so you can just see how they're all connected. And so the idea has always been to create state dependence. It's been to destroy independent livelihood, to destroy people's ability to fend for themselves. Because if you can fend for yourself, you're not beholden to anyone. You can just go, no, thanks, you're okay. I'm all right. I can do what I want. I do it my way. I've got my own business. I've got my own income. I'm fine, thanks, Mr. Government. But they are, through all these different aspects, destroying that, and that's completely by design. And so now here the UK government are warning of food shortages, and you can see it when you go to the supermarket. The shelves are not empty, but they're not as full as they were, and that's noticeable now, and that's only going to get worse. So that's what I believe is the thing for people to watch out for. I think another thing, and I know the Ice Age Farmer touched on this, which was the bird flu pandemic, that was going to be the next card that would be played, which, if you remember that interview with Bill Gates and his wife, ex-wife, where he says, they will pay attention to the next one, and they both smile like Bond villains. And so the Ice Age Farmer had been talking to a few different people, one of which was a whistleblower from the CDC, I believe. And they were saying that the bird flu one is the next one. And then I started noticing around the Derbyshire area where I live, there's avian flu signs are popping up in areas. So it's like, this is an avian flu area. And there's certain areas of Derbyshire where you can't buy eggs now. You can't eat their eggs from that place. And when I went down to the Isle of Wight for seeing my family last week, we went to a little farm. Like, the animals love these llamas, this llama farm. All the chickens and all the poultry and all the birds are all caged off because of avian flu. And then today they announced the first human case of H3N8, I think, which is a new strain of bird flu out of China. Obviously, it's always China. And so you can see these pieces, being put together. And I think, probably the Ice Age Farmer was right on that. So then you get more lockdowns, more destroyed businesses. You destroy all that livestock, all that poultry to get rid of this flu. And obviously then, that's, people aren't eating that then. Again, and that, and so that's something.
Chicken, of course, is one of the main food sources. I assume same in the UK, but it's especially in the US, it's definitely one of the main food sources is chicken.
It's number one, mate. Yeah, number one. Absolutely. Yeah. And so you can see it kind of how it's all connected to get to a point where people are on their knees. There's not enough to eat, and people don't have jobs, and the houses are being bought up. I mean, we spoke about this before you press record, about the fact that Vanguard and BlackRock are buying up all this property. Bill Gates is buying up all this farmland. In the UK, the Lloyd's Group are buying up all this property. You will own nothing, but you'll be happy. And if you said to someone, I tell you what, mate, you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy, people would go, well, hang on, like, no way. I own my own business. Thanks. I own my car. I own my house. Hell, I worked hard to pay for that. No, you're not having that. But then if you fast forward and you create such a state of dependence based on the fact that there's no food going around, there's no jobs, your business is crippled, everything's screwed, you can't keep up with your mortgage repayments, so your house is being repossessed. And then you go back to that person and you say, look, you won't own it. You won't own any of this, but the state will take it on. So you can still have your house and you can still have the use of this car. You don't own anything, but there's no debt. You're not crippled with repayments.
There's no financial debt, at least.
There's no financial debt, exactly. People would go, yes, please, thanks, you've saved me, thanks, Mr. Government. And what people don't realize then, it's like the situation with the with a protection racket. Protection racket comes along and says, look, I want, we protect businesses, there's a lot of thugs around that will smash windows, and you go, no, I'm all right, thanks, mate, my business is great, it's been here for 30 years, not a problem. And then next week all your windows get smashed in, and then they come back and go, I just wondered if we revisit that, would you like some protection? yes please, rather than thinking, hang on, I reckon it's you that smashed the windows. The fact that this whole destruction is completely by design. Here in the UK as well, bearing in mind, they're admitting that there's food shortages. That was on the government website. They're blaming the Russians for it. Obviously, Russians are to blame for everything, but they're admitting there's going to be food shortages, while at the same time, they're now offering incentives to UK farmers, one-off lump sum payments to retire and quit farming.
In the US, they're paying farmers to put land into preserves and not farm it. Same concept, yeah.
And you look at that and you go, right, explain that to me like I'm 5, right? There's not going to be enough food, but you're paying people to not make food. Unless there's a nefarious motive behind that, why are you doing it? Doesn't make any sense.
And that's literally what your dad has been saying for the better part of 30 years. Know the outcome and you'll know the journey. Now, you could say, we've talked about this so many times, but it isn't unless people feel the actual effects that they begin to really look and connect the dots. And this is, I guess, human nature. Unless we're really, for most of us, unless we're really in a painful situation, we're not willing to change or at least acknowledge there's a problem. Now, a lot of things that you touched on kind of remind me of, I don't know if you remember the movie, I want to say it was in early 2000s, The Perfect Storm. George Clooney, fishermen, they went out, had this amazing run of fishing, and they had this perfect 2 storm systems that came together over the Atlantic Ocean, but they wouldn't stop because they were so addicted to the success they were having. So they were literally sailing into the perfect storm, which killed them all. And not to paint a dark picture, because I believe our awareness is the first step, and then what actions can we take? But do you feel like, with everything you've just said, and then there are so many things in the works that will appear over the next weeks and months, which we don't even know yet. We're talking about food, energy, housing, which are main components. But do you think we're headed for the perfect storm? And if that's the case, which it appears to be, what do you feel? And I'm sure this is a discussion point in your family. What are real life actions that people can take right now to minimize the effects, prepare for it, or even reverse the course that we're on?
I think the first step, for me at least, is the survival. So for instance, with the energy prices here in the UK, if they're going to go up again in October, right, I can't afford that. So I've also got 2 young kids. Okay, so how are we going to survive that? We don't live a big flamboyant lifestyle, so that's not a problem. But in terms of how am I going to heat the house? Log burners, we've got log burners, we'll do this and that. So there's ways of just basic stuff. We've got a garden, right, we'll start planting stuff as soon as we move into this new house. So that's a quick fix, basically, of how we can keep our heads above water if it all kicks off. The other way, I think, which is important, is to spread awareness of it. And I know people go, oh, it's too much talking, but you made a really valid point there, where people don't wake up to stuff until it happens to them, unfortunately. And it's very frustrating, because if you can see the train coming and you're shouting at someone to get out of the way and they're like, you're mad, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the nearer the train gets, sometimes people won't wake up until it's flattened them. But a lot of people, once the train gets close enough where you can start to hear it, people do start to have a look around. And I feel like at the moment we're in a real crossroads with this scenario where, people are starting to actually wake up to stuff. And that can make a huge difference, because here in the UK particularly, we reached that point with the COVID narrative probably about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer actually, where we were at a crossroads. And I remember going on podcasts and having the same conversation. I was like, we're at a point now where people are starting to see it. And now it's what you can do about it, mate. And God love them, what the British people did was stand up and say no chance. And so I think we spoke about this last time we had the chat, when they wanted to lock us down for Christmas and the people went, no way, you're not having it. And, Britain is free, basically. In the most part, there's the odd silly rule in terms of going into a doctor's mask and all that sort of nonsense. But fundamentally, you can do what you want here now. And the only reason that is because people said no. And so, I'm hoping very much that that's something that people are going to do as well. When it comes to, say, energy price and stuff, the people are just going, no, I'm not going to pay it. I know lots of people that have cancelled direct debits. They're turning off all their electricity for certain periods of the day, every day, because that will hit these energy companies. I mean, these energy companies made billions over the COVID period when everyone was in their house locked down, watching telly, heating on because they were in the house, so they made an absolute killing. And so that's what I'm hoping, is that a little bit more awareness will get out there, because more people are starting to ask questions now. They don't know what the answer is. They just know that what they're being told by the television isn't the answer. So what is going on? And if you can kind of, through what you're doing and what we're trying to do here, kind of explain to people, or at least show people a different view, because they're free to make their own mind up. That's the whole point.
Always.
But to be able to go, look, well, what about this? Because like I mentioned earlier, the idea that you're saying there's going to be food shortages, we're paying people not to make food. Okay, again, explain that to me like I'm 5. And you say that to the man in the street, the man will go, well, that doesn't make any sense. And you go, okay, right. So do you think, I know you probably think politicians are idiots, and a lot of them are, but do you think they're that stupid? Well, no, I wouldn't think they're that stupid. Right. So why are they doing it then? Well, that's a good point. It's a good question. Right. Okay. Well, let's start having a conversation about it then. And the more people that have that conversation, and the more people that are affected by it, because the middle class is taking a battering now, and the middle class has been fine. It's looked down on the peasants a little bit. I'm not quite up there with you guys, but I'm not down there with you. I'm all right. I'm not going to rock the boat because
I'm comfortable. Yeah.
I'm comfortable. That we've got 2 cars in our household. We're all right. Whereas now, that up there is coming for the middle class as well. And it's devouring them. The middle class was very happy to sit at home on furlough, with the absolute lack of foresight, the fact that while they were sat at home, the businesses they were working for were collapsing. And I think it was Peter Hitchens described it as the longest drawn out redundancy campaign in history. It's exactly what it was, furlough. That's all it was. And so, again, hopefully that will wake people up, because we've got the strength in numbers. And as long as enough people say, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not. It's not happening. Then you can pull the whole thing down. And I think you can pull the whole thing down very, very quickly when there's enough of you, which is what happened, like I mentioned earlier, which was what happened with COVID here. Because at the beginning of November, Christmas and New Year were going to be cancelled. And it only took a month of people going, no, it's not. And it hit Christmas and everyone went out partying. And it doesn't take a lot. It just takes enough people to say, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not paying those energy prices. I'm not doing that. And then, you've got half a chance. It just feels like a real critical time at the moment on that front.
I couldn't agree more. And the truth is, if we look at just the first almost 5 months of this year, or 4 months, then we have seen a lot of positive movements. And one being the trucker movement in Canada, which, I mean, it just created an energy window for people around the world. I don't remember the last time we had a movement that so quickly kind of was contagious, to the hearts and spirits. And then, of course, we see Russia, Ukraine, like immediately being turned on. One could say that this cabal, this group, these, evil entities that are creating all this upheaval are really acting out of fear, and it appears out of great fear right now. The fear that simply this awakening, and once it manifests down into actual actions or non-actions, like you say, like literally, I will do this, I won't do that. That's just where I draw the line. This whole game is over. But one thing that comes on the flip side is, and people always say, well, we don't have any alternatives. We don't have any solutions. Now, you know this, you're featuring people on Ickonic, you're showing people that have come out with plenty of solutions. There's technology that would allow us to produce energy in much more efficient and also environmentally friendly ways, not to speak of those technologies that are completely suppressed, that are even more amazing. Can you speak a little bit, because you know these people, your dad knows these technologies, has talked about them a lot. What alternatives do we have for gas heating, you know, or what do we have for conventional power production? What's out there that we could actually use and switch over to?
Well, there's plenty of people that are coming up with lots of different technologies all the time. You know, it's difficult because a lot of them are suppressed, obviously, and they kind of try and hold a loophole where technologies or whatever will require, you know, authorization or permissions and stuff like that. So that, you know, sometimes people might have to, you know, have a questionable legal route on certain things. But you know, in terms of the energy side of it, I'm not that clued up on that, if I'm brutally honest with you. Most of the stuff that we look at is more kind of health treatments and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm actually talking to Naomi Cook, who does a bit of stuff for the channel, about getting involved with her project in terms of health products and stuff like that are, again, totally off grid in terms of, you know, the establishment, the medical establishment. But there are plenty of things out there, and there are plenty of people doing stuff. It's just, you know, for me, I'll be honest with you, I'm more basic. Like, I don't mind the idea of going back to a basic way of living.
That would have been my next question. So great.
That is, you know, I don't need to go boop and pay for stuff with my hand and stuff. I have no interest in that. So for me, you know, maybe the reason I don't know that much about these brand new technologies is I don't really have that much interest in them, if I'm honest, which, you know, might sound stupid for someone talking on a laptop over Zoom, but I kind of like the idea of going back to basics and going back to small communities, the you know, hunter-gatherers that look out for each other and stuff. And I almost feel like that's the state that we're designed to be in. I don't feel like we're designed to be surrounded by all these, you know, electromagnetic fields and all this kind of stuff. I think it just plays havoc with people psychologically, and I don't think it's positive. And I would rather have my kids climbing trees than playing on iPads. You know, it's so for me, I'm looking more into sort of friends that I have a little bit north of me in Derbyshire and some down on the south coast that are already building communities that are much more like that, almost going back to almost like a kind of like an Amish way of living in a way, you know, where you're growing your own food and you're building everything by hand and starting again. That's sort of, I'm not resigned to that, but that is something that I'm probably more leaning towards rather than new technologies. But there is plenty of stuff out there. It's not something that I'm that well versed on.
And I'm same as you on this. And we just had this conversation, Christine and I, my wife and I. You know, I very much have a cowboy in me. Like, it's very simple. Be out in the fields or be out in the woods. And I know if I step out of what we're doing right now and I go to this, I'll never come back, just because I know how much my heart longs for this. And you said something. You said it's kind of ironic. We're here using all this technology and talking to people. But if your spirit is somewhat like mine, we are using these means right now for a specific reason. And as soon as that is accomplished, we'll be happy to step away and say, okay, the work's done here. We can all just go and be families again, be human again, grow food together, celebrate like your dad's 70th birthday coming up, you know, a beautiful celebration, family, children, food, fun, talk, the beautiful stuff that we actually all want to do. None of us wants to be out here fighting this crap that we're or exposing, at least not in a way that it's perpetual. So I think you touched on something very important, and perhaps this is also an encouragement from you to everyone to question their addictions to these technologies, to constant consumption, and what is essential right now, because this information knowledge is essential, but what are we moving into? So
yeah, but that's the thing. They've got you addicted to it, and they're created to be addictive. Things, social media is created to be addictive. When you scroll down on Facebook and it does the while it's loading, that's because you get a dopamine hit, because you are waiting for something. It doesn't need to do that. So many things in our lives are created to get us addicted to them. It's like they say, if something's free, you're the product. Mm-hmm. Like, as simple as that. And that's the case with social media, and tablets and phones and all these things. And like, where was I yesterday? I was somewhere yesterday with my wife and we were on the boat. That was it. We're coming back from the Isle of Wight, and I'm sat there with my wife and my two girls, and we're sort of playing and drawing and, well, scribbling. She's 8 months. But my wife pointed out to me, she said, look around. I was just like that. And every single person, maybe 50 people, every single person is on the mobile phone. Every single person. Now, it's a beautiful day. You look out the window, you've got the Solent, like the sea, you've got the Isle of Wight there, you've got the mainland, you've got all these yachts and stuff. What are you doing? Because it's an addiction. They don't even realize they're doing it. They will pick up their phone and go, every few minutes. Why are you doing that, mate? Because you're trained to do that. It's an addiction. And so, with these energy crisis, obviously you've got your situations where people need to heat themselves to survive. You've got that. Absolutely, you've got that. But there is a large group as well that, energy to them means the Xbox. It means the TV. It means charging your tablets and your phones.
Amazon,
and all these,
Netflix, all the stuff that's,
Yeah, exactly. All these things that, do you need that? Do you really need that? Do you need to watch a series on Netflix called He's Expecting, about a man having a baby? Do you need that in your life? I don't know if you do, really. And so, I moved to the countryside a few years ago, and now I'm in the process of moving even further out into the countryside. And for me, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be addicted and part of this whole system, which is designed to have you addicted to it. It's not designed for our benefit. These billionaires aren't doing these. They're not designing these products for our benefit. And I also don't think it's just for money either. And so for me to be, to sort of step out of that matrix a little bit and to be out of it can only be a good thing for people to do that. Just, get out into the countryside, get out walking. And if you live in a city, just get out into a local park, just talk to people, not over a phone or on a text, just have a conversation with another human being. It's what we're designed to do. We're social beings. And I think we've forgotten that a bit. And it feels almost a little bit like, when the British went into Africa, and they went into Rhodesia, as it became, and then obviously then Zimbabwe, and Cecil Rhodes and the likes were getting the tribal leaders addicted to opium. And they'd have, oh yeah, this feels good, blah blah, this is great, and then we'll take the opium away. Sorry.
Now what?
Yeah, now what? I need more. Okay, well, you just sign off this little bit of land to me then, mate. Okay, mate. Yeah, okay, mate. Okay, mate. And that's how the British Empire was born, and we're all supposed to be proud of it. But that's just society in a nutshell. You're getting people addicted to these things. Get addicted to this, get addicted to that. Like you mentioned earlier, consume. Put it on the credit card, mate. Pay it off next year. 0% interest. It's fine. And then next year comes, oh, shit, pay off a credit card. Oh, that's all right. I'll get another credit card. I'll get a different credit card that will swallow up that payment. And then I've got another one. And you're chasing it down the road. I might die tomorrow. Yeah, but you might not, mate. And you've got to pay it off. And, and it's all creating this point where you've got everyone enslaved, either addicted or indebted, to the state, basically. And that's a perfect place for the state to have you.
And as you said over and over, it's all by design. And I think the path that so many people are taking is beginning to create outside, like you say, literally outside of this system as much as possible. But at the same time, there's this looming feeling that if we don't actually walk into the darkness, I always say, once you discover your light, you can't walk away. You got to walk into the darkness, shine it there so we can transmute it and eventually change it. So the difficult part for people to mind or wrap around is how that might even come about. How do you dismantle a system that is apparently so in the hands of these few players in the world that can, like you said, Vanguard or BlackRock, and then the people that we don't even know their names of because they're so far in the back, right? But how do we, aside from doing this outside of the system, how do we dismantle this from the inside? This is literally a question I ask myself often. Is it going into more positions of politics? Is it stop paying your taxes? What are some of the things that might be effective in that?
Well, that's certainly a way. And I know a lot of people here have stopped paying their council tax. They're just simply not doing it. I kind of get the feeling that it will eat itself anyway. Mm-hmm. I feel very much like that. Like you mentioned earlier, like these actions are coming out of fear and desperation. And I almost feel, and this isn't me being like a trust the plan, don't do anything and all that sort of nonsense, but I actually think it's very simple what people need to do, which is just non-compliance, just basic, peaceful non-compliance in enough numbers. And, the Austrian government can say to you that you have to have a vaccine. They can say that. They're free to say that. That's absolutely their right to say you have to have a vaccine. But it's also your right to go, no, you're right, thanks, mate. And then what? A mandate doesn't mean anything. A mandate is just a word. It's just a series of words. That's all a mandate is. It becomes a mandate when you go along with it. And if enough of you refuse to, it's just a politician saying some words from an auto cue. It doesn't mean anything. And I think people, once they realize the power that they have, which more and more people are realizing the power that they have, then the whole house of cards can come falling down. And it feels very much like it is anyway. Even the Ukraine narrative isn't really washing with people. The COVID narrative is dead. I mean, that's done. That's finished, And so you think, okay, so you're going to come out with this bird flu narrative now, but after 2 years of COVID, like, you honestly think people are going to get suckered in again? Some will probably beg for it, but less people will buy that than bought that. And then the next one, less people will buy that than bought that. And it will go on and on to such a point where they're running for the finish line, it feels like, at the minute. And I know, like, people have used this example of it's the Great Reset versus the Great Awakening, and it feels like that, like this is a race to the finish line. And they're desperately trying to get things over the line, but the more desperate they get to get things over the line, the more obvious they become. Like if you're running for a finish line desperately, your technique will suffer. You will become all arms flailing because you're desperately trying to get over the line. And that's the state that I think we're at the moment. And so more and more people are waking up. There's definitely something going on. And so, that's more and more people that are going to non-comply. More and more people aren't going to go along with it anymore. People are cancelling their TV licenses here like it's going out of fashion. People are cancelling their Netflix subscriptions, their Disney subscriptions. And all these things is just propaganda outfits. You sign into it, you pay for your own propaganda and your own enslavement, your own programming. But people are now stepping away from it, going, hang on, mate, I've been paying for 10 years to be programmed. I ain't doing it anymore.
It's actually an interesting thing if you look back on the things you maybe used to watch. I don't know, maybe a Disney movie as a kid, and then being away from it so long, you go and watch it, you go, what? And they're letting children watch this. It's like, what? you really realize it when you step out of it. You don't realize it while you're in it.
No, not at all. But more and more people are seeing through stuff now. And, in terms of the awakening, it's only going one way. Like, no one's going back to sleep. No. I've seen that throughout the COVID era brilliantly, where people will wake up. No one's going back to sleep. No one's going, oh, actually, do you know what? I thought it was nonsense, but actually, no, the government's right. Lock me down forever. Like, that's just not happening. People are going the other way. People are going, even a lady in my local shop, she doesn't know who I am or what my opinions are and stuff, but she just brought it up. She was like, I'm done. She was like, I've had 3 shots. She said, everyone made me ill. I'm done. Like, I'm literally, they can stick it. Now, she's not even coming from a viewpoint of, I've done some research, not done any research, but she's just come to the opinion of, no, I'm done. Like, I am done. And, you know, more and more people are getting like that now. Not doing it anymore, not doing it anymore, not doing it anymore. And, you know, once it hits a critical mass of numbers, which I think we're getting there, then the whole house of cards will fall apart. I honestly believe that.
I think for the first time over the past years, what I've observed in mass numbers is not just seeing through this one specific thing. And this used to be the case, you know, when things, for whatever reason in the past, turned out to not be what they were presented to be, people were like, oh, that was a scam. And they looked at it as an isolated event. But more and more people are understanding the principle of, like you said in the very beginning of our conversation, everything is connected. This matrix does not operate in compartmentalized ways. It only makes it appear as if, but everything is connected. And so what really gives us more than hope is, like you say, people are seeing the big picture and they're saying, wait a minute. I mean, it's not just that it's a scam. It's not just that the whole thing is a scam. It actually, all of television, all of media is a scam. All of the scientific apparatus is a big scam, or medical apparatus. So they just go, okay, this is all a big lie. And I think once you, like you say, make that, you know, flip that switch, there's no going back. Unless the cognitive dissonance is so big, and then you're lost anyways. But very, very seldom does it ever happen. I want to shift a little bit to something exciting, which is I hinted on it earlier. Your dad's turning 70, and I know, you know, in his worldview, yeah, it's a number, and it's but you know, we all live in this 3D reality, so I assume there's going to be celebrations. But I think a lot of viewers have the question: is David Icke going to slow down, take it easy, and retire somewhere in the woods?
No chance. He'd hate it. No, he'd love it, but he won't do anything while there's a battle still to be fought. You know, I mean, it's funny. Like, he's up in Derbyshire at the minute, and he's on holiday. He's like, I'm going to take, you know, a couple of weeks. He's just finished a new book called The Trap, which is being indexed at the minute, so that'll be out in the summer. And so he's kind of like, you know, I'm going to take a couple of weeks just to, you know, and it's like, yeah, I'll give it a week, I reckon. I'll give it a week until, you know, the emails are going crazy, the phone's going crazy, and you're like, you know, have you seen this? If you know, let's do this, blah, blah. So, yeah, he's not going to slow down. He, you know, he feels like he's here to win a war, basically, that he's been fighting for 30 years. Now, when that's won, you know, then he's, you know, that's me, I'm out. But until then no, he'll just go until his last breath, for sure, you know. But yeah, our family's coming up. So my mum, who's up there, they've been divorced for years, but they're still really good friends. So she's coming up with my sister, my brother and his kids, and his wife and my wife and our kids and stuff. And we're all, you know, going to go out for a nice meal and have a family get together. His brother's also coming up, my dad's brother. And so we'll just, you know, drink some wine and eat some food and just try and forget about the fact that everything's crazy for at least a couple of days. I bought him a card actually that says, in dog years, you'd be dead. So I'm
charming.
I'm hoping he'll see the funny side of that. Because I told my wife, and she was like, "Ooh, it's a bit harsh." And I was thinking, but then technically, he created me. So if anyone's to blame for my sense of humor, it's him. So he should really just be upset with himself if he don't like it, shouldn't he? You know. But yeah, it'll be really nice. And he wants to get the family together on Friday, which is his actual birthday. And we're going to go out to some, you know, standing stones here in Derbyshire and just have a really nice day out. So it'd be nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Well, on behalf of, you know, all of us, my family, and I'm sure the Inspired Tribe, we're wishing your dad, I mean, nothing but the best and the best and the best. And may he, you know, bless us with all of his insight, knowledge, and wisdom for many years to come. But one thing I wanted to say, and I think people don't always realize it because he's talking about these serious subjects and has been, your dad has a tremendous sense of humor and just loves to laugh and tell jokes, right? As far as I can tell.
Yeah, we have a crack. I mean, his jokes are dreadful. Like They're awful, you know, like.
Are they like dad jokes or?
Oh, massively, yeah. And so there's laughter, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of, it's an awkward laughter. It's a sympathetic laughter.
Pity
Yeah.
laughter.
Yeah, but I've become that. And so I remember like my dad would tell jokes when I was a kid and you're just like, and then my daughter gives the same look now when I crack jokes and I try and be funny. I think it's just.
Ask my 19-year-old son. He'll tell you the same thing about me. He said pretty pathetic dad jokes, but we need humor. And perhaps on a lighter note, we touched a lot of serious subjects, and I know you have a lot to do, so I want to let you go too. But perhaps on a lighter note, what's your encouragement to people to keep the balance between becoming aware, between gathering information and preparing and doing what needs to be done, but also what do you do for balance? What do you do to relax? What do you do to enjoy life?
It's so important, mate. I remember when I was younger, like my dad saying, you know, you need to find a balance between trying to save the world and seeing how Derby County are getting on. They got relegated. But at least they didn't go bankrupt. They nearly went bankrupt. But and he's right, you know, and it's difficult to do that for a lot of people. Like people will listen to that and just go, well, you know, how are you supposed to, you know, focus on happiness when all this stuff's caving in? But at the same time, you know, that state of fear and desperation is exactly the state they want you in. They want you in that low vibrational state. That's the whole idea. That's why every single day you turn the news on, they tell you that the roof's caving in. They just give you a different reason why your roof's caving in. It's Putin caved your roof in. COVID caved your roof in. Bird flu caved your roof in. You know, it's the same negative energy all the time. So for me, I just try and find things to laugh at. My kids make me laugh a hell of a lot. They're funny. And doing the WhatsApp podcast with Rich every couple of weeks, I recorded that this morning. That gives me enough energy to get me through a few days, that mate, because he's just really, really funny. And what's so good about it is he doesn't know he's funny. And so another thing that I find interesting and works for me is just to laugh at the madness. You know, you can look at it and you can get angry. Which I do sometimes, obviously, but other times. So like this today, I found this. So let me read this. Now I could look at this and just go, do you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm done with this nonsense. And I am done with it. But this is a news story, right? This is from Sky News. So, you know, a major news corps in the UK. Climate change. Designers of cow face mask that neutralizes emissions from belching wins a £50,000 Prince Charles Prize. And I thought, right, let's check the date, make sure it's not April the 1st. No, it's 27th. And there's a picture of it. And if people search that, there's a picture and it's a cow and it's got this special design face mask on. Mate.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. There's not even a wind up. That's legit, right? And so I think to myself, right, so we're in a position where you're supposed to fear this all-powerful elite, right? And these guys are making face masks for cows. Like,
well, somebody must dedicate their whole time to designing face masks for cows. And that guy or that girl, I feel really sorry for them.
Well, I do, but they've just got 50,000 quid. They've done all right. I'm thinking, why didn't I come up with that? I could do with 50 grand. But yeah, so just laugh at stuff, you know, the absurdity of it, you know, of the whole thing. It is funny. And also, you know, like anything, if you have a bully on the playground and you fear that bully, or you ask to be friends with that bully and please don't hit me, sir, that gives them all the power. You stand there and you laugh at that bully, mate. They hate that. And so I think, you know, like you touched on with Dad's sense of humor, laughing at these people is so important because they are funny. I mean, look at Fauci. I mean, how can you look at Fauci and not laugh?
I don't know. It's a tragic, ironic, but of course, very nefarious figure. You know, it's like evil in some ways. But I think what you just said with the face mask is this headline describes the absurdity of it all. It's all in one headline. You could basically put all of the last 30 years or it doesn't matter how long in it and say, this is what describes the Matrix, this society. And I completely second that. For us, it's, you know, meditation every morning. It's something that grounds me, allows me to connect. But it is to really, you know, do the work when it needs to be done and then enjoy and play and also be silly and stupid sometimes and just don't take everything so seriously, because that's another part of what they want, is to you constantly be so serious and be so invested. It's their narrative. We need to understand it. They are in some ways very powerful. In other ways, they're zero powerful. And that's the ways I think we need to focus on it and find our own power.
100%. They have the power we give them. They don't have any other power above that at all.
Wonderful. I want to leave it at that, because there could not be a better mission statement. Gareth, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you and your family and your dad, you will all enjoy the time together, and I'm sure you will. And consider this an open invitation. We'd love to have you back on. It's always an honor and a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. And all the love to your family as well. I can't believe you've got a 19-year-old kid. You don't look old enough.
Well, thank you. It's all the good water I used to drink in Austria.
It's paid off.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. Thank you, Inspired Tribe, for joining us. And please go, by the way, before I forget it, Gareth, please let people know where they can find you online, or follow you or listen to you.
I'm on Twitter and Getter, and Parler and all those. I'm on all of them, really.
And what's your handle?
Just my name, just Gareth Icke, all one word. With Twitter, I always treat every day like it's my last, even
This might change. This might change.
Well, when the Lord Savior, the AI Neuralink guy comes in to save humanity, I love it.
Ironic. In the short term, it might get better. I'm not saying this is long.
Short term, at the end of the day, it's like anything. If you want to sell something, you have to make people believe that it's worth buying. So in the short term, almost certainly it might be a slightly better place, but I wouldn't trust him to tell me the time. So I think, there's obviously a nefarious part of it for sure. Even down to him and BlackRock, kind of quarreling over buying Twitter, and the fact that, he was the good guy and BlackRock were the bad guys, when BlackRock are the biggest headed investors in Tesla.
I don't trust Elon Musk, like you say, to tell me the time either. I was saying, since you are on Twitter, you might have a little bit of an easier time sticking around longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I might even appeal Dad's ban just to see what happens.
Yeah. And of course, Ickonic, right? How do people sign up for that?
And Ickonic.com. So if you go to Ickonic.com, which is ICKONIC.com, there's a 7-day trial running all the time. So you can go in and just see, what's for you. Like, the channel's massive now in terms of content. So there's a bit for everyone. So go in there, have a poke around for 7 days for free, and have a look and see what you think.
Wonderful. And I encourage you to go check it out. We love the platform. Absolutely love it. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Inspired Tribe. Have a wonderful and joyful and funny rest of your day.